The signal came from the edge of known space, weak and broken. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Earthship Resilience, watching the green lights flash on his communication panel. He had been patrolling the sector for 3 months, checking trade routes and making sure everything stayed peaceful. Now something had changed. "What do we have, Lisa?" Jake asked his communications officer. Lisa Carter sat at her station, her fingers dancing over the controls as she tried to clean up the signal. She had been working with alien communications for 5 years, but this one was different. It felt desperate. "It's coming from the Catharan colonies, sir," Lisa said, her voice quiet. "But it's not their usual trade frequency. This is an emergency broadcast." Jake moved closer to Lisa's station. The Catharans were known throughout this part of the galaxy as peaceful traders. They sold books, art, and knowledge to anyone who wanted it. They never caused trouble. They never asked for help either. "Can you clear it up?" Jake asked. Lisa nodded and kept working. Slowly, voices began to come through the static. At first, Jake could only hear bits and pieces. Then the words became clear and his blood went cold. "Please, anyone who can hear this," a voice said in the common galactic language. It sounded like an older male, probably one of their leaders. "Our colonies are under attack. Ships we have never seen before came 3 days ago. They destroyed our orbital stations without warning." The voice paused and Jake could hear other sounds in the background. Children crying. People running. Explosions in the distance. "They call themselves the Vorthak Empire," the voice continued. "They do not want our surrender. They do not want our resources. They just want us dead, all of us. They hunt our families for sport." Jake felt his jaw tighten. He had heard stories about species like this, but he had hoped they were just rumors. "We are not warriors," the voice said, and now Jake could hear the fear clearly. "We have never learned to fight. We have never needed to. But now our children are hiding in caves while these creatures hunt them like animals." Lisa looked up at Jake with wide eyes. She had 2 children back on Earth. Jake could see that she was thinking about them. "We have heard stories about a species called humans," the Catharan voice said. "Stories say you come from a death world. Stories say you know how to fight. If any humans can hear this message, please help us. We will give you anything we have. Our art, our knowledge, our entire civilization's wealth. Just please help our children." The signal cut out, leaving only static. Jake and Lisa stared at each other for a long moment. Around them, the bridge was completely silent. Everyone had heard the message. "Sir," Lisa said quietly, "I'm reading 12 more distress signals from different Catharan colonies. All saying the same thing." Jake turned to his tactical officer. "Danny, how far are we from their space?" Danny Foster checked his navigation computer. "About 6 days at full speed, sir. But Captain, we're just one ship. If this Vorthak Empire has enough ships to attack multiple colonies, they'll have enough to destroy us too," Jake finished. "I know." He walked to his command chair and sat down, thinking hard. The Resilience was a good ship with a good crew, but it was designed for patrol work, not major battles. "Sir," his first officer, Alex Thompson, said, "we should contact Earth Command. Let them know what's happening." Jake nodded. "Do it. Send everything we just heard. But Alex, also send a message to Admiral Williams. Tell her we need the 3rd Fleet out here immediately." Alex looked surprised. "The entire 3rd Fleet, sir?" "Maybe more," Jake said. He looked at the communication panel where the Catharan message had come through. "Lisa, can you trace where that signal came from?" Lisa worked at her controls for a few minutes. "Yes, sir. It came from New Haven, their largest colony. Population about 2 million. How long ago was it sent?" "The signal degradation suggests about 18 hours ago, sir." Jake closed his eyes. 18 hours. If the Vorthak were hunting Catharans for sport, how many had died already? How many children were still hiding in those caves? "Captain," his security chief Ryan Davis said from his station, "I've been looking through our database on the Vorthak Empire. There's not much, but what we have is not good." "Tell me," Jake said. Ryan brought up a holographic display showing what little information Earth had gathered. They appeared about 50 years ago on the far side of the galaxy. Since then, they've wiped out at least 6 different species completely. Not conquered them. Wiped them out. No survivors. What do they want? Lisa asked. "That's the problem," Ryan said. "They don't seem to want anything. They don't take slaves. They don't settle on the worlds they attack. They just kill everything and move on. The galactic community thinks they do it because they enjoy it." Jake stood up and walked to the main view screen. Outside, stars moved slowly past as the ship traveled through space. Somewhere out there, families were dying while he sat safely on his bridge. "Sir," Danny said, "I hate to say this, but maybe we should wait for the fleet. If the Vorthak have been doing this for 50 years, they must have a lot of ships and weapons." Jake understood Danny's concern. It made sense to wait for backup. It was the smart thing to do. But then he thought about the voice in that message. He thought about children hiding in caves. "How long until the third fleet can get here?" Jake asked Alex. Alex checked with Earth Command. "Minimum 2 weeks, sir." "Maybe 3. Jake turned back to his crew. Every person on the bridge was looking at him, waiting for his decision. These people trusted him to keep them safe. But somewhere else, other people were dying. "Sir," Lisa said softly, "I'm still picking up those distress signals. They're getting weaker." Jake made his choice. "Set course for New Haven, maximum speed." "Sir," Danny said, "are you sure? We don't know what we're flying into." Jake sat back down in his command chair. "Danny, when humans first went to space, we made a promise. We said we would never let innocent people suffer if we could help it. The Catharans are innocent. They've never hurt anyone, and they asked us specifically for help." He looked around at his crew. "I know this is dangerous. I know we might not come back. Anyone who wants to transfer to another ship when we reach New Haven can do so. But I'm going to answer their call." Lisa smiled at her captain. "Sir, with respect, where exactly would we transfer to? We're the only Earth ship in this sector." Jake realized she was right. "Well then, I guess we're all in this together." "Always were, sir," Alex said. "That's what being human means." Jake nodded. He opened a communication channel to the entire ship. "All hands, this is the captain. We have received a distress call from the Catharan colonies. A hostile force called the Vorthak Empire is attacking innocent civilians. We are going to help them. I want all departments to prepare for possible combat operations. We don't know what we're going to find, but we're going to find it together." He closed the channel and looked at his bridge crew. "All right, people. Let's go show this Vorthak Empire what happens when they mess with our friends." The Resilients turned toward Catharan space and jumped to full speed. Behind them, Earth was already preparing to send help. But Jake knew that for the Catharans hiding in those caves, help couldn't wait for fleets and politics. Sometimes help started with just one ship and a crew willing to do what was right. The Resilients dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Catharan space 5 days later. What Jake Morrison saw on his main screen made his stomach turn. Where New Haven should have been, there was only debris. Pieces of buildings floated in space alongside the broken remains of Catharan ships. "My God," Lisa Carter whispered from her communication station. "The entire orbital city is gone." Jake stood up slowly, staring at the destruction. New Haven had been home to 2 million Catharans. Now it was just wreckage drifting in the dark. "Life signs?" Jake asked his medical officer. Dr. Amy Peterson worked at her station, scanning the debris field with every sensor they had. "Nothing, Captain. If anyone survived, they're not here anymore." Danny Foster, the tactical officer, was studying his displays with growing alarm. "Captain, I'm reading energy signatures from Vorthak weapons all through this system." "But sir, look at this." He transferred his readings to the main screen. "These aren't just military targets. They hit schools, hospitals, even art museums." Jake felt anger building in his chest. They weren't trying to conquer this place. They were just killing everyone they could find. "Sir," Alex Thompson said from the first officer's station, "I'm picking up a faint signal from the 4th planet. It might be survivors." Jake nodded. "Take us there. But carefully. If there are survivors, there might still be Vorthak ships around." The Resilients moved deeper into the system, past the ruins of orbital stations and the wreckage of civilian ships. Jake could see that the Catharans had tried to evacuate, but their ships were not built for war. The Vorthak had hunted them down one by one. As they approached the 4th planet, Lisa looked up from her station with excitement. "Captain, I'm getting a signal. It's weak, but it's definitely Catharan." "Put it through," Jake said. A voice came through the speakers, speaking in broken common language. "Anyone, please." "We are hiding in the caves. There are maybe 300 of us left. The hunters keep coming back." Jake grabbed his communication microphone. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earthship Resilience. We received your distress call. We're here to help." There was a long pause. Then the voice came back, filled with disbelief. "Humans, you really came?" "Yes," Jake said. "We're here. Where are you exactly?" "Northern continent." Mountain range. We have been hiding for 6 days, but they keep finding us. They seem to enjoy the hunt. Jake looked at Danny. Any Vorthak ships in the area? Danny checked his sensors. Not right now, sir, but I am reading some strange energy patterns near that mountain range. Dr. Peterson spoke up from her station. Captain, I've been analyzing the Vorthak weapon signatures. These are not normal military weapons. They're designed to cause maximum fear and pain, not quick kills. Jake felt his jaw tighten. They really are hunting for sport. Sir, Ryan Davis said from the security station, I've been going through our database some more. I found some intercepted communications from other species. The Vorthak call this the Great Hunt. They choose a peaceful species and see how long they can make the killing last. Lisa looked up from her station with disgust. That's sick. It gets worse, Ryan continued. They broadcast the hunts to other Vorthak as entertainment. The longer they can keep the prey alive and afraid, the more popular the hunt becomes. Jake was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then he opened the communication channel again. Catharan survivors, this is Captain Morrison. We're going to get you out of there, but I need you to stay hidden for a little longer. Captain, the Catharan voice said, how many ships do you have? The Vorthak have at least 20 vessels in this system. Jake looked around his bridge. His crew was staring at him. We have one ship, he said honestly. There was another long pause. One ship? Against 20? Yes, Jake said. But we're humans. We don't abandon people who need help. Alex Thompson leaned over to Jake and spoke quietly. Sir, 20 ships is a lot, even for us, Jake nodded. I know, but look at this. He pointed to the tactical display. The Vorthak ships are spread out across the system. They're not expecting a fight. They think they're just hunting helpless prey. Danny studied the display. You want to hit them one at a time? That's exactly what I want to do, Jake said. But first, we need to learn more about their ships and weapons. Dr. Peterson had been working at her station during this conversation. Now she looked up with interesting news. Captain, I've been analyzing the debris from the Catharan ships. The Vorthak weapons are powerful, but they're not designed for ship-to-ship combat. They're designed for terrorizing civilians, and what does that mean? Lisa asked. It means their ships might not be as tough as they seem, Amy explained. They've been fighting peaceful species for so long they might not be ready for someone who fights back. Ryan added more information. I've also been studying their hunting patterns. They like to take their time. They'll attack a few targets, then wait and watch the fear spread. It's all about the psychological effect. Jake stood up and walked to the main view screen. Outside, he could see the debris field where 2 million Catharans had lived peaceful lives just days ago. Now they were dead, killed for entertainment. Here's what we're going to do, Jake announced to his crew. We're going to rescue those survivors. Then we're going to make sure the Vorthak understand they picked the wrong species to hunt. How? Alex asked. Jake turned back to his crew. The Vorthak think they're the predators in this system. They think they're hunting helpless prey, but they've never met humans before. Danny was looking at his tactical display. Sir, I'm showing 3 Vorthak ships moving toward the planet where the survivors are hiding. Jake sat down in his command chair. Perfect. Lisa, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we've found the Vorthak and we're engaging. Request immediate backup. Sir, Lisa said. Backup won't arrive for at least 10 days. I know, Jake said. But the Catharans can't wait 10 days. And besides, someone needs to teach these Vorthak what it means to hunt something that hunts back. Alex looked worried. Captain, I'm all for helping the Catharans, but 3 ships against 1. Jake smiled grimly. Alex, the Vorthak have been hunting scared civilians for 50 years. They've never faced humans in combat. They don't know what we're capable of. Dr. Peterson spoke up again. Captain, there's something else. I've been studying human military history compared to what we know about the Vorthak. Every species they've destroyed was peaceful. They've never fought anyone who actually knew how to fight. What's your point? Danny asked. Amy looked around at the crew. My point is that humans have been fighting wars for thousands of years. We know things about combat that these Vorthak have never learned. They're used to easy prey, Jake nodded. Exactly. The Vorthak think they're predators, but humans are the real predators in this galaxy. We just usually choose not to act like it. Ryan was studying the movement of the Vorthak ships. Sir, those 3 ships are definitely heading for the survivors. They'll reach the planet in about 2 hours. Jake looked around at his bridge crew. These people had followed him from Earth, trusted him with their lives. Now he was asking them to fight against overwhelming odds to save people they had never met. "I want everyone to understand something," Jake said. "What we're about to do is dangerous. We might not survive, but those Catharans down there asked us for help. They've heard that humans come from a death world. They've heard that we know how to fight. Now they're hiding in caves while monsters hunt their children." He paused, looking each crew member in the eye. "We can turn around right now and wait for backup. No one would blame us. Or we can show these Vorthak what happens when they threaten innocent people under human protection." Lisa was the first to speak. "Sir, I have 2 children back on Earth. If someone was hunting them, I would want humans to help them, no matter the odds." Danny nodded. "The Vorthak need to learn that some prey fights back." Alex straightened in his chair. "Course laid in for the planet, Captain." Jake felt pride swell in his chest. This was why humanity belonged in space. Not because they were the strongest or the smartest, but because they would not let evil go unanswered. "All right, people," Jake said. "Let's go hunting." The 3 Vorthak ships were sleek and dangerous looking, painted in dark colors that made them hard to see against the stars. They moved in a tight formation toward the planet where the Catharan survivors were hiding. Jake watched them on his main screen as the Resilience approached from behind. "They're not even watching for other ships," Danny Foster observed from his tactical station. "They think they own this system." Jake nodded grimly. "That's about to change." "Lisa, any communication between those ships?" Lisa Carter listened to her equipment. "Yes, sir. I'm picking up their chatter. It's in their own language, but the translation computer is working on it." "What are they saying?" Jake asked. Lisa's face grew pale as the translation came through. They're talking about the hunt like it's a game. One of them is complaining that the Catharans are hiding too well. Another one says they should use fire to smoke them out of the caves." Dr. Amy Peterson looked up from her medical station with anger. "They're talking about burning children out of hiding places like it's entertainment." Jake felt cold rage building in his chest. He had seen war before, but this was different. This was not soldiers fighting soldiers. This was monsters hunting innocent families for fun. "Range to target?" Jake asked. 50,000 kilometers and closing," Danny replied. "They still haven't noticed us." "Good. Lisa, open a channel to the Catharan survivors." Lisa worked her controls. "Channel open, sir." "This is Captain Morrison," Jake said into his microphone. "We're about to engage the Vorthak ships approaching your planet. Stay hidden until we give you the all-clear." The Catharan voice came back immediately. "Captain, there are 3 of their ships. You cannot fight all 3 alone." Jake smiled grimly. "Watch us." He closed the channel and looked around his bridge. "All hands, battle stations. Danny, target the rear ship first. Let's see what these Vorthak are made of." The Resilience moved closer to the Vorthak formation. Jake could see that the alien ships were larger than his vessel, but they moved slowly and without any sign of urgency. They clearly were not expecting trouble. 30,000 kilometers, Danny reported. "Weapons locked on target." "Fire," Jake ordered. The Resilience's main cannon fired a beam of pure energy that crossed the space between ships in seconds. It struck the rear Vorthak vessel directly in its engine section. The alien ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light. "Direct hit," Danny shouted. "One down." The other 2 Vorthak ships immediately turned toward the Resilience, but their movements were clumsy and confused. Lisa was listening to their communications. "Sir," she said with surprise, "they're asking each other what happened. They don't understand how their ship just exploded." Jake was not surprised. They've never been attacked before. They don't know what to do when someone shoots back. The second Vorthak ship fired a weapon at the Resilience, but the shot went wide by several kilometers. Danny returned fire immediately, and the second alien ship suffered heavy damage to its hull. "Sir," Ryan Davis called from the security station, "I'm reading the design of these ships. They're built for intimidation, not combat. Lots of weapons for attacking defenseless targets, but weak shields and armor." The remaining 2 Vorthak ships tried to coordinate an attack, but they moved too slowly. The Resilience was smaller and faster, darting between their shots like a fighter avoiding a clumsy giant. "These ships are designed for hunting prey that can't fight back," Amy observed. "They've never had to deal with someone who knows combat tactics." Jake watched as Danny destroyed the second Vorthak ship with a series of precise hits. The third ship tried to run, but it could not match the Resilience's speed. "Should we let it go?" Alex Thompson asked. Jake thought about the children hiding in caves, about the 2 million Catharans who had died for entertainment. No, we don't let monsters escape to hunt again. Danny fired one more time and the last Vorthak ship exploded into debris. All targets destroyed, Danny reported. Battle duration 4 minutes 37 seconds. Jake opened the communication channel to the planet. Catherian survivors, this is Captain Morrison. The immediate threat has been eliminated. You can come out of hiding. There was a pause, then the Catherian voice came back filled with amazement. You destroyed all 3 ships? In less than 5 minutes? Yes, Jake said simply, but they were Vorthak ships. Everyone fears the Vorthak. How did you defeat them so easily? Jake looked around his bridge at his crew. Because we're humans, and humans don't let bullies hurt innocent people. Lisa was monitoring long-range communications. Sir, I'm picking up chatter from other Vorthak ships in the system. They know their hunting party is gone and they're not happy about it. How many more ships? Jake asked. At least 15, sir. Maybe more. They're starting to move in our direction. Jake studied the tactical display. 15 ships were a lot, even if they were not very good at fighting. The Resilients had won the first battle because of surprise and superior tactics. But now the Vorthak knew they were here. Sir, Danny said, I'm reading some interesting energy signatures from those approaching ships. I think they're bringing heavier weapons. Dr. Peterson looked up from her analysis station. Captain, I've been studying the wreckage from those 3 ships. The Vorthak are not as physically tough as we thought. They come from a low-gravity world and their bodies are designed for speed and intimidation, not strength. What does that mean for us? Alex asked. It means that if we can get close enough for boarding actions, human physical advantages would be overwhelming, Amy explained. But their ships still have those long-range weapons. Jake was thinking hard. 15 ships meant a big battle, and even though the Vorthak were not good fighters, 15 against 1 was still bad odds. But the Catherian survivors were counting on him. And more importantly, someone needed to teach the Vorthak that their hunting days were over. Lisa, any word from Earth Command? Jake asked. Yes, sir. Admiral Kate Williams is bringing the 3rd Fleet, but they're still 8 days away. Jake nodded. 8 days was too long. By then, the Vorthak might decide to abandon this system and go hunt some other peaceful species. Sir, Ryan said, I have an idea. What if we don't fight all 15 ships at once? Jake looked at his security chief. Go on. The Vorthak are used to hunting scared prey, Ryan explained. They spread out to cover more area and create more fear. But that means they're not supporting each other. If we can pick them off in small groups, and Danny was looking at his tactical display. Sir, Ryan's right. The Vorthak ships are spreading out across the system instead of staying together. They're still thinking like hunters, not warriors. Jake smiled. Then we'll teach them the difference. Lisa, open a channel to all Vorthak ships in the system. Lisa worked her controls. Channel open, sir. Jake stood up and spoke clearly. Attention, Vorthak ships. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel Resilience. You are hunting in human-protected space. Stop your attacks on the Catherians and leave this system immediately. There was a pause. Then a harsh voice came through the speakers, speaking in broken, common language. Human ship, you have destroyed 3 Vorthak vessels. This is unacceptable. You will surrender for punishment. Jake laughed. I don't think you understand the situation. You're not hunters anymore. Now you're the prey. Impossible. The Vorthak voice snarled. We are the masters of the hunt. No prey escapes us. You've never hunted humans before, Jake replied. We're different from the peaceful species you're used to killing. One small ship cannot defeat the Vorthak Empire. Jake looked around at his crew. Everyone was ready for battle. You're right. One ship can't defeat your entire empire, but one ship can definitely ruin your day. He closed the channel and turned to his crew. All right, people. The Vorthak want to hunt. Let's show them what it feels like to be hunted by something that's actually dangerous. The Resilients turned toward the approaching Vorthak fleet. And for the first time in 50 years, the Vorthak Empire was about to learn what fear felt like. The Vorthak fleet spread across the star system like a pack of wolves surrounding their prey. Jake Morrison watched 15 enemy ships position themselves on his tactical display, each one larger than his own vessel. But instead of feeling afraid, Jake felt something else entirely. He felt angry. They're trying to surround us, Danny Foster observed from his tactical station. Classic hunting formation. That's their mistake, Jake replied. They still think we're prey. Lisa Carter was monitoring Vorthak communications. Sir, they're coordinating their attack. The lead ship is giving orders to close in slowly, like they're herding frightened animals. Jake stood up and walked to the main view screen. He could see the nearest Vorthak ship, a dark and menacing vessel bristling with weapons designed to terrorize civilian populations. But Jake was not a civilian, and he was definitely not terrorized. "Danny, can our ship handle more speed?" Jake asked. Danny checked his engineering displays. "Yes, sir. We can push the engines harder, but it will put stress on the hull." "Do it," Jake ordered. "Alex, I want you to plot an intercept course with the nearest Vorthak ship. Not the course they expect us to take, but a direct collision course." Alex Thompson looked up from his navigation station with surprise. "Sir, you want to ram them?" "Maybe," Jake said with a grim smile. "Let's see how they react when their prey charges directly at them." The Resilience suddenly accelerated toward the nearest Vorthak vessel at maximum speed. Jake could feel the ship vibrating around him as the engines pushed beyond their normal limits. On his tactical display, he watched the Vorthak formation react with confusion. "Sir," Lisa reported, "the Vorthak are asking each other what we're doing. Their leader is telling them to maintain formation, but some of the ships are starting to back away. They've never seen prey charge at them before," Dr. Amy Peterson observed from her medical station. "They don't know how to react." The Resilience raced directly toward the Vorthak ship, which was nearly 3 times larger. At the last second, Jake ordered Danny to fire all weapons at point-blank range. Then Alex pulled the ship into a sharp turn that brought them alongside the alien vessel. "Direct hit," Danny shouted as the Vorthak ship's shield systems failed. "They're venting atmosphere." But Jake was not finished. "Ryan, prepare a boarding party. Full combat gear." Ryan Davis looked shocked. "Sir, you want to board their ship?" "I want to show them what happens when humans get close enough to touch," Jake said. "Amy, what do we know about Vorthak physiology?" Dr. Peterson quickly brought up her analysis. "They're tall and thin, adapted for low gravity. Strong, but not as strong as humans. Their bones are hollow like bird bones, which makes them faster but more fragile." "Perfect," Jake said. "Ryan, take 10 Marines and show them how humans fight when we're angry." The boarding pods launched from the Resilience and attached to the hull of the damaged Vorthak ship. Jake watched on his monitor as Ryan and his Marines cut through the alien hull and entered the enemy vessel. What happened next would become legendary throughout the galaxy. The Vorthak had never fought humans before. They had never fought anyone who actually knew how to fight. For 50 years, they had been hunting peaceful species who ran in terror at the sight of Vorthak weapons. Now they faced creatures from a death world who did not run from anything. "Ryan to bridge," came the Marine's voice over the communication system. "Sir, these Vorthak, they're not as tough as they pretend to be. They're actually quite fragile." Jake could hear weapons fire and shouting in the background. "Report, Ryan." "Well, sir, the first group we met tried to intimidate us by roaring and waving their weapons around. When that didn't work, they actually seemed confused. They don't know how to fight someone who fights back." More sounds of battle came through the speakers. "Sir, we've reached their bridge. The Vorthak commander wants to surrender." Jake was surprised. "Already?" "Yes, sir. Apparently they expected us to be terrified of them. When we weren't, they didn't know what to do. These creatures are bullies, sir. They're only dangerous when their victims can't fight back." Jake opened a communication channel to the Vorthak ship. "Vorthak Commander, this is Captain Morrison." "I'm told you want to surrender." A frightened voice came through the speakers. "Human Captain, we did not know you were warriors. We thought you were like the Catharans." "The Catharans are peaceful people who never hurt anyone," Jake said angrily. "You hunted them for sport. You killed children." "It is our way," the Vorthak commander said, but his voice was shaking. "We are the greatest hunters in the galaxy." "No," Jake said firmly. "You're not hunters. You're cowards who prey on the weak. Real hunters face dangerous prey. You've been killing defenseless families." On his tactical display, Jake could see that the other Vorthak ships were watching the battle with growing concern. Some of them were backing away from the fight. "Danny, what's the status of their weapons?" Jake asked. Danny checked his sensors. "The ship Ryan boarded is completely disabled, sir. But the other 14 ships are still out there." Jake made a decision that would echo across the galaxy for generations. "Open a channel to all Vorthak ships." "Channel open, sir," Lisa confirmed. "Attention, Vorthak fleet," Jake announced. "You have 30 seconds to leave this system immediately, or we will do to all of you what we just did to your friend." There was a long pause. Then the Vorthak fleet leader's voice came through, filled with anger and confusion. "You are only one ship. We are many." "Yes," Jake agreed. "You are many cowards who hunt children. We are one ship full of humans who protect children. Which do you think is more dangerous? To prove his point, Jake ordered Danny to launch a missile at the nearest Vorthak vessel. The alien ship's shields collapsed under the impact, and it began venting atmosphere. 29 seconds, Jake announced calmly. 3 more Vorthak ships immediately turned and began moving away from the battle. The others hesitated, unsure of what to do. 15 seconds, Jake said. More Vorthak ships began to retreat. Their leader was screaming orders at them, but many of his captains were no longer listening. They had never faced an enemy that actually fought back, and they were discovering they did not like it. 5 seconds, Jake announced. The Vorthak fleet leader made his choice. All ships retreat. The humans are different than expected. Jake watched as the remaining Vorthak vessels turned and fled the system at maximum speed. In less than an hour, a 15-ship fleet had been reduced to scattered ships running for their lives. Ryan, return to the ship, Jake ordered. Bring any information you can find about other Vorthak operations. Already on it, sir, Ryan replied. We've downloaded their computer files. Sir, you're not going to like what we found. As the boarding party returned to the Resilience, Jake opened a channel to the Catharan survivors. This is Captain Morrison. The Vorthak fleet has been driven off. You're safe. The response was immediate. Captain, we saw the battle from our hiding places. You defeated 15 ships with just 1 vessel. How is this possible? Jake looked around his bridge at his crew. These people had just accomplished something that would have been impossible for any other species. Because we're humans, he said simply. And humans don't let bullies hurt our friends. When Ryan returned to the bridge, his face was grim. Sir, those computer files show the location of 6 other Vorthak hunting fleets. They're attacking peaceful species all across this part of the galaxy. Jake sat down in his command chair and thought about what this meant. The Vorthak Empire was not just threatening the Catharans. They were threatening everyone who could not fight back. Lisa, send a message to Admiral Williams, Jake ordered. Tell her to bring everything she's got. We've got work to do. As the Resilience prepared to leave the Catharan system, Jake looked back at the planet where 300 survivors were emerging from their caves. They had called for help from across the galaxy, and humanity had answered. But now Jake understood that this was bigger than just one rescue mission. The Vorthak had been hunting peaceful species for 50 years, believing they were the greatest predators in the galaxy. It was time to teach them about the real predators. It was time to teach them about humans. Admiral Kate Williams stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Earth vessel Guardian, watching the largest human fleet ever assembled prepare for battle. 47 ships from Earth's Third Fleet had answered Captain Morrison's call for help, and now they were about to teach the Vorthak Empire a lesson it would never forget. Admiral, her communication officer reported, we're receiving updates from Captain Morrison. He's identified 6 more Vorthak hunting fleets operating in this sector. Kate nodded grimly. Jake Morrison had done something incredible with just 1 ship, but the Vorthak Empire was much larger than anyone had realized. It was time for humanity to show the galaxy what happened when someone threatened innocent people under human protection. Status of the fleet? Kate asked her first officer, Commander Steve Martin. All ships ready for combat operations, ma'am, Steve replied. The Marines are eager to get into the fight. Word has spread about what happened to the Catharan colonies. Kate had seen the recordings that Jake had sent back to Earth Command. 2 million peaceful beings killed for entertainment. Children hunted like animals. Families torn apart for sport. Every human who saw those images felt the same cold rage that Kate felt now. Ma'am, her tactical officer reported. Long-range sensors are showing the first Vorthak hunting fleet. 23 ships attacking the Zilani colonies. Kate looked at the tactical display. The Zilani were another peaceful species, known throughout the galaxy for their beautiful music and art. Now they were being hunted by the same creatures that had destroyed New Haven. How long until we reach them? Kate asked. 6 hours at maximum speed, came the reply. Kate opened a communication channel to the entire fleet. All ships, this is Admiral Williams. We are about to engage a hostile force that has spent 50 years hunting innocent civilians for sport. They believe they are predators. Today we show them what real predators look like. She paused, thinking about the families hiding in caves while monsters hunted them. The Vorthak have never fought humans before. They've never fought anyone who actually knows how to fight. They're about to learn why Earth is called a death world. The third fleet moved through space toward the Zilani system at maximum speed. As they traveled, Kate received more reports from her intelligence officers about the scope of the Vorthak threat. "Admiral," her intelligence chief reported, "we've analyzed the data Captain Morrison recovered. The Vorthak Empire has destroyed at least 12 different species completely, not conquered them. Wiped them out." Kate felt her jaw tighten. "How is that possible? Why hasn't anyone stopped them?" "Because no one could," the intelligence officer explained. "Every species they've attacked has been peaceful. The galactic community has been too afraid to act. They just hide and hope the Vorthak don't notice them." Kate looked around her bridge at her human crew. These people came from a world where storms could kill entire cities, where the wildlife included creatures that could tear apart a tank, where the very air and water could be poisonous in the wrong places. Earth had forged humanity into something that could survive anything. "Ma'am," the tactical officer announced, "we're approaching the Zilani system." Kate moved to the main view screen and saw what the Vorthak were doing. The alien ships were positioned around Zilani colonies, methodically destroying civilian targets while broadcasting the destruction to other Vorthak fleets as entertainment. "My God," someone whispered. "They're live-streaming the massacre." Kate felt something cold settle in her chest. "All ships, attack formation. No warnings. No negotiations. These creatures have made their choice." The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel directly in the middle of the Vorthak hunting formation. For a moment, both fleets stared at each other across the space between them. Then Kate spoke into her communication system. "All ships, weapons free. Show them why you don't hunt. Children in human space. What happened next would be remembered as the beginning of the end for the Vorthak Empire." The human ships moved with a precision and coordination that the Vorthak had never seen before. Where the aliens expected fear and confusion, they found cold, professional anger. Where they expected retreat, they found humans charging directly into battle. The first Vorthak ship exploded before its crew even understood they were under attack. The second managed to fire a few wild shots before human missiles tore through its hull. By the time the Vorthak fleet leader understood what was happening, half his ships were already destroyed or disabled. "Admiral," Kate's communication officer reported, "the Vorthak are trying to surrender." Kate looked at the tactical display, where Vorthak ships were breaking formation and trying to flee. "Negative. They've had 50 years to surrender. Today they learn what it feels like to be hunted." The battle lasted less than 20 minutes. When it was over, the Vorthak hunting fleet was completely destroyed, and Zilani civilians were emerging from their shelters to watch human ships patrol their system. "Ma'am," the communication officer said, "we're getting messages from the Zilani. They're asking who we are." Kate opened a channel to the Zilani colonies. "This is Admiral Kate Williams of the Earth Third Fleet. We received word that you were under attack." A grateful voice came through the speakers. "Admiral Williams, we had given up hope. The Vorthak have been hunting us for 3 days. How did you find us?" "A peaceful species called for help," Kate explained. "When someone threatens innocent people, humans respond." There was a pause, then the Zilani voice came back with amazement. "You came all this way to help people you've never met?" Kate looked around her bridge. "That's what humans do." Over the next several days, the Third Fleet moved through the sector systematically hunting down Vorthak fleets. Each battle followed the same pattern. The Vorthak, expecting easy prey, found themselves facing creatures that had evolved on a world where everything was trying to kill them. The humans did not just defeat the Vorthak. They humiliated them. 50 years of easy hunting had made the aliens soft and overconfident. When they finally faced real opposition, they crumbled like paper. But the real shock came when Admiral Williams received a communication from the Vorthak home fleet. "Human Admiral," the voice said in heavily accented common language. "We wish to negotiate." Kate was surprised. "Now you want to talk?" "Your species is different than we expected," the Vorthak leader admitted. "We did not know you were warriors." "We're not warriors," Kate corrected. "We're humans. There's a difference." "We do not understand," Kate thought about how to explain it. "Warriors fight because they have to. Humans fight because someone needs protection. The Catharans needed protection. The Zilani needed protection. That made you our problem." There was a long pause. "We offer you tribute, wealth, territory, anything you desire." Kate laughed. "We don't want your tribute. We want you to stop hunting innocent people. That is difficult," the Vorthak leader said. "It is our nature. Then change your nature, Kate said firmly. Because if we find you hunting peaceful species again, we'll come back. And next time we won't just destroy your fleets. We'll follow you home. The communication ended and Kate turned to her crew. All ships continue patrol pattern. I want every Vorthak hunter in this sector found and eliminated. As the days passed, word of the human intervention spread throughout the galaxy. Species that had been hiding in fear for generations began to emerge. The galactic community, which had been paralyzed by terror of the Vorthak, suddenly found courage, and in the depths of space, other predatory species that had been considering following the Vorthak example quietly changed their plans. The galaxy had learned that there was something worse than monsters who hunted the innocent. There were humans who protected them. 3 weeks after Admiral Williams had begun hunting Vorthak fleets, the galaxy was changing in ways no one had expected. Captain Tony Rodriguez stood on the bridge of his ship, the Earth vessel Defender, reading reports from across human-patrolled space. Dozens of species that had been hiding in fear were now asking for Earth's protection. Captain, his communication officer Lisa reported, we're getting another request for assistance, this time from the Marani Republic. They say a Vorthak fleet is approaching their home system. Tony nodded. The Marani were peaceful traders much like the Ketherans. They had never developed military technology because they had never needed it. Until now, how far? Tony asked. 2 days at maximum speed, sir. Tony studied his tactical display. His ship was part of a growing network of human vessels spreading across this part of the galaxy. Earth had committed everything they could spare to protecting innocent species from predators like the Vorthak. Sir, his tactical officer Danny reported, long-range sensors show 28 Vorthak ships heading for Marani space. It's one of their largest hunting fleets. Tony felt the familiar cold anger settle in his chest. 28 ships meant they were planning something big. The Vorthak were trying to make up for their recent failures by targeting a high-profile victim. Get me Admiral Williams, Tony ordered. Kate Williams appeared on his communication screen a few minutes later. Behind her, Tony could see the busy bridge of her flagship as the Third Fleet continued its patrol operations. What do you have, Tony? Kate asked. A big one, ma'am. 28 Vorthak ships moving on the Marani home system. They're not just hunting this time. This looks like they're trying to make a statement. Kate's expression grew grim. How long until they reach Marani space? 4 days, ma'am. Kate thought for a moment. Take the Defender and any ships in your sector. I'm sending you backup, but you might have to engage before it arrives. Tony nodded. Understood, ma'am. Tony, Kate added, be careful. If they're sending 28 ships, they might be learning from their previous defeats. They might actually be ready for a fight this time. After the communication ended, Tony looked around his bridge. His crew had been with him through 6 battles against Vorthak fleets. They had never lost, but they had never faced odds this bad either. Sir, his security chief Ryan reported, I can get us 3 more ships from nearby patrols. That gives us 4 ships against 28. Tony smiled grimly. Those are better odds than Captain Morrison had when this all started. The small human fleet raced toward Marani space, pushing their engines to maximum speed. As they traveled, Tony received increasingly desperate messages from the Marani Republic. Human ships, came one transmission. The Vorthak have arrived at our outer colonies. They are not just attacking military targets. They are destroying everything. Cities, farms, schools. Please help us. Tony opened a channel to respond. Marani Republic, this is Captain Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Force. We are on our way. Hold on. Captain Rodriguez, the Marani voice replied. We have heard of the humans who defeated the Vorthak. We have heard you come from a death world. Is this true? Tony looked around his bridge at his crew. These people had grown up on a planet where hurricanes could flatten cities, where earthquakes could swallow mountains, where the wildlife included creatures that could kill a person in dozens of different ways. To them, that was just normal life. Yes, Tony said simply. We come from a death world. That's why we know how to deal with predators. When the human ships arrived at Marani space, Tony saw immediately that this was different from previous battles. The Vorthak had learned from their defeats and changed their tactics. Instead of spreading out like hunters, they were staying together like a military formation. Sir, Danny reported, the Vorthak fleet is positioned defensively around the main Marani colony. They're using the civilian population as shields. Tony felt sick. They're holding 3 billion Marani hostage. Captain, Lisa said. "We're receiving a transmission from the Vorthak fleet leader." "Put it through," Tony ordered. A harsh voice filled the bridge. "Human Captain, I am Warlord Kethron of the Vorthak Empire. You will withdraw immediately, or we will execute every Marani in this system." Tony stood up from his command chair. "Warlord Kethron, this is Captain Rodriguez. You have 3 seconds to release those civilians." The Vorthak leader laughed. "You have 4 ships. I have 28. You are in no position to make demands." "You're right," Tony agreed. "I'm not in a position to make demands. I'm in a position to make promises." "What promises?" Tony looked at his tactical display, studying the enemy formation. "I promise that if you harm one civilian, I will hunt down every Vorthak in this galaxy and introduce them to why humans are called Deathworlders." There was a pause. "You cannot fight us all, human." "Watch me," Tony replied, then closed the channel. Tony knew he needed to act fast. The backup Admiral Williams had promised was still hours away, and the Vorthak were clearly planning to start killing civilians if the humans tried anything. "Danny, can we get close enough to board their flagship?" Tony asked. Danny studied the tactical display. "It's possible, sir, but we'd have to get through their entire fleet." "Sir," Ryan said, "I have an idea. What if we don't try to fight all 28 ships?" Tony looked at his security chief. "Go on." "The Vorthak are using the civilian population as shields," Ryan explained. "That means they have to stay close to the planet. They can't maneuver freely." Tony began to understand. "You want to use their own tactic against them." "Exactly, sir. We go straight for their flagship. Force them to either shoot at us while we're near civilians or let us get close enough to board." It was a desperate plan, but it might work. The Vorthak had never faced humans who were willing to take extreme risks to protect innocent people. "Do it," Tony ordered. The Defender raced directly toward the center of the Vorthak formation at maximum speed. The alien ships tried to intercept them, but they were afraid to fire their heavy weapons so close to the civilian population. "Sir," Danny reported, "we're taking light weapons fire, but nothing that can penetrate our shields." Tony watched as his ship dove through the Vorthak fleet like a fighter plane through a flock of birds. The alien ships were confused and disorganized, unsure how to respond to such an aggressive attack. "Boarding pods ready," Ryan reported. "Launch when we reach their flagship," Tony ordered. The Defender pulled alongside the massive Vorthak command ship, and boarding pods shot across the gap between vessels. Tony led the boarding party himself, along with 20 Marines in full combat gear. What they found on the Vorthak ship changed everything. The Vorthak were not the terrifying predators they pretended to be. Up close, Tony could see that they were actually quite fragile. Their intimidating appearance was mostly for show, designed to frighten species that had never learned to fight back. "Sir," one of his Marines reported, "these Vorthak are not very tough. They keep trying to roar at us to make us scared, but when that doesn't work, they don't know what to do." Tony and his team fought their way to the bridge of the alien ship, where they found Warlord Kethron trying to coordinate his fleet, while also preparing to execute Marani civilians. "Human," the Vorthak leader snarled when he saw Tony. "You cannot stop us. We are the greatest hunters in the galaxy." Tony looked at the alien warlord, who was nearly 3 meters tall but moved like his bones were made of glass. "No, you're not hunters. You're cowards who prey on the defenseless." The warlord tried to strike Tony with a ceremonial weapon, but the human captain easily dodged the clumsy attack and subdued the alien with a single punch. "This is Captain Rodriguez to all Vorthak ships," Tony announced over the alien fleet's communication system. "Your warlord is my prisoner. Any ship that harms civilians will be destroyed and your leader will be the first to die." The response was immediate. The Vorthak fleet began to break apart, as individual captains decided they did not want to risk their leader's life or face angry humans in combat. By the time Admiral Williams arrived with reinforcements, the crisis was over. The Vorthak fleet had surrendered, and 3 billion Marani civilians were safe. But Tony understood that this was just the beginning. The Vorthak Empire was huge, and there were other predatory species watching to see if humanity would continue to protect the innocent. The galaxy was about to learn that humans took their responsibilities seriously. 6 months after the first Catharan distress call, the galaxy was a different place. Captain Grace Turner stood in the meeting hall of the new Galactic Protection Station. watching representatives from 47 different species discuss the formation of the most important alliance in galactic history. Grace had been promoted after her work as communications officer under Captain Morrison. Now she was Earth's primary liaison with the growing coalition of species that wanted to join humanity's protection network. It was work she had never expected to do, but work that felt more important than anything she had done before. "The Nexari delegation has a question," announced the meeting coordinator, a tall blue-skinned alien named Veltar, who had volunteered to help organize the discussions. A representative from the Nexari, a species of peaceful scholars, stood up. "Captain Turner, our people want to join your protection alliance, but we are concerned. The Vorthak Empire is still out there. What happens if they return with a larger fleet?" Grace looked around the meeting hall at dozens of species that had lived in fear for generations. Some, like the Ketherans and Mirani, had already been attacked by the Vorthak. Others had been hiding, hoping the predators would never find them. "The Vorthak Empire is not our only concern," Grace replied honestly. "Our intelligence reports show at least 3 other aggressive species that have been watching the Vorthak's hunting campaigns with interest." A worried murmur went through the hall. The representative from the Zilani spoke up. "You mean there are others like the Vorthak?" "Yes," Grace said. "The galaxy has predatory species that survive by attacking those who cannot defend themselves. For too long, peaceful species have been alone and vulnerable." An elderly Catheran stood up. Grace recognized him as Elder Thane, one of the survivors from New Haven. "Captain Turner, humans have already done more for us than we ever dared hope. But you are asking us to join a military alliance. Our people have been peaceful for thousands of years." Grace nodded. "Elder Thane, we're not asking you to become warriors. We're asking you to stand together so that predators can never again pick off peaceful species one by one." "But what can we contribute?" asked a Mirani representative. "Our ships are not built for war. Our people do not know how to fight." Grace smiled. "You contribute exactly what makes you valuable. The Catherans have knowledge and wisdom that spans centuries. The Mirani have trade networks that connect half the galaxy. The Zilani have art and music that inspire hope. The Nexari have scientific discoveries that could benefit everyone." She stood up and walked to the center of the room. "The predators want you to believe that being peaceful makes you weak. But that's not true. Being peaceful makes you worth protecting. And if the predators come anyway?" asked the Nexari representative. "Then they face all of us together," Grace replied. "Humans will provide the military protection, but you provide the reason why that protection matters." A new voice spoke from the back of the room. "What about species that are not peaceful?" Grace turned to see a representative from the Corvin Republic, a species known for their competitive nature and advanced technology. They were not aggressive like the Vorthak, but they were definitely not pacifists. "Captain Turner," the Corvin continued, "my people respect what humans have done, but we are not defenseless. We have our own military. What role would we play in this alliance?" Grace had been hoping someone would ask this question. "The Corvin would be partners, not protected species. Some members of this alliance need protection. Others can help provide it. The goal is to make sure no peaceful species ever faces extinction alone." The discussions continued for hours, but gradually a consensus emerged. Species after species agreed to join what would become known as the Galactic Protection Alliance. The terms were simple. Peaceful species would receive protection in exchange for sharing their knowledge and resources. More militarily capable species would help provide that protection. At the center of it all was humanity, the species from a death world that had proven it would risk everything to protect innocent people. But Grace knew that the real test was still coming. 2 days after the alliance was officially formed, Admiral Williams called an emergency meeting. Grace hurried to the command center, where she found Kate studying a holographic display of the local galactic region. "What is it, Admiral?" Grace asked. Kate pointed to the display. "Long-range reconnaissance has detected a massive Vorthak fleet heading this way. Not 20 or 30 ships like before. Over 200 vessels, including their main battle fleet." Grace felt cold. "They're coming for revenge." "It looks that way," Kate confirmed. "But there's more. Our intelligence shows they've formed an alliance of their own. 3 other predatory species have joined them." Grace stared at the display. The approaching fleet represented everything that was wrong with the galaxy. Predators who survived by hunting the innocent. now working together to destroy anyone who opposed them. How long until they arrive? Grace asked. 2 weeks, Kate replied. Maybe less. Grace thought about the 47 species that had just agreed to work together for mutual protection. Most of them had never been in a battle before. Many did not even have military ships. Admiral, can we win? Grace asked quietly. Kate was silent for a moment. Grace, I've never faced odds like this. The combined predator fleet outnumbers us 3-1, and some of their species are genuinely dangerous. But, Grace sensed there was more. Kate smiled grimly. But they've made the same mistake the Vorthak made originally. They think being aggressive makes them strong. They've never faced a united defense. Over the next 2 weeks, the Galactic Protection Station became the center of the largest military preparation in galactic history. Human ships arrived from Earth and other colonies. Species like the Corvin contributed their advanced technology. Even peaceful species found ways to help, providing supplies, communication support, and medical facilities. Grace found herself coordinating between dozens of different species, each contributing what they could to the common defense. The Catharans provided strategic analysis. The Mirani organized supply lines. The Zilani used their communication networks to spread word of the Alliance throughout the galaxy. But the most important contribution came from an unexpected source. Captain Turner, Elder Thane said as he approached Grace in the command center. My people have been thinking about this battle. Elder Thane, Grace replied. You don't need to worry about fighting. That's what the military ships are for. The elderly Catharan shook his head. Captain, you misunderstand. We do not want to fight, but we want to help in another way. How? Elder Thane activated a communication device. We want to tell the galaxy what is happening here. We want every peaceful species to know that they are not alone anymore. Grace realized what he meant. You want to broadcast the battle? Yes, Elder Thane said. For 50 years, predatory species have terrorized the galaxy because peaceful species believed they had no choice but to hide. Today we show them that there is another choice. Grace looked around the command center, where representatives from dozens of species were working together to defend their shared values. Elder Thane, I think that's a wonderful idea. When the Predator fleet finally arrived, they found something they had never expected. Instead of scattered, frightened prey, they faced a united alliance backed by the military might of humanity. The battle that followed would be remembered as the day the galaxy chose hope over fear, cooperation over domination, and at the center of it all were humans, the species that had answered a desperate plea for mercy and changed the course of galactic history. The Predator fleet arrived like a storm of death and darkness. Admiral Kate Williams stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching 200 enemy ships drop out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. The Vorthak had brought everything they had, and they had brought friends. Admiral, her tactical officer reported, I'm reading Vorthak ships, but also vessels from the Sectar Dominion, the Harvest clans, and the Black Tide Syndicate. Kate nodded grimly. The galaxy's foremost aggressive predatory species had joined forces to destroy the Galactic Protection Alliance. They had come to prove that might made right, that the strong should prey upon the weak. They were about to learn why that philosophy was wrong. All ships, battle stations, Kate announced to the combined fleet defending the station. Today we fight not just for ourselves, but for every peaceful species in the galaxy. Captain Jake Morrison, who had started this war by answering a single distress call, now commanded a squadron of Earth's finest vessels. Admiral, human fleet ready for battle. Captain Tony Rodriguez, fresh from his victory at Mirani Space, reported in from his position. Marine assault ship standing by, Admiral. But the most surprising support came from an unexpected source. Admiral Williams. This is Captain Velnash of the Corvin Republic Fleet. We stand ready to defend the Alliance, Kate smiled. The Corvin had contributed 12 advanced warships to the defense, proving that the Alliance was more than just humans protecting helpless species. It was a true partnership. Admiral, Captain Grace Turner called from the Galactic Protection Station. All civilian evacuation is complete. The peaceful species are safe, and Elder Thane is ready to begin broadcasting to the galaxy. Kate opened a communication channel to the approaching enemy fleet. Attention Predator vessels. This is Admiral Williams of the Galactic Protection Alliance. You are entering protected space. Turn around now and leave peacefully. The response came from a harsh voice speaking in the common galactic language. Human Admiral, I am Warlord Vector of the combined Predator fleet. You have interfered with our hunting rights for the last time. Surrender now and we will make your deaths quick. Kate looked around her bridge at her human crew, then at the representatives from allied species who had chosen to stay and fight. Warlord Vector, let me explain something about humans. We don't surrender when innocent people need protection. Then you will die with them, the Predator leader snarled. Maybe, Kate agreed. But if we do, we'll take as many of you with us as we can. The battle began with a coordinated assault by the Predator fleet. 200 ships moved in perfect formation, using tactics designed to overwhelm and terrorize their enemies. Against peaceful species, this approach had never failed. But the Galactic Protection Alliance was not a collection of peaceful species hiding in fear. It was a united force that had learned to fight back. The human ships met the Predator charge head-on, their captains displaying the kind of aggressive courage that could only come from a death world. But they were not fighting alone. Corvan vessels provided advanced shielding technology. Mirani ships coordinated supply lines that kept the defenders supplied with ammunition and medical support. Catharan strategists provided tactical analysis that helped the fleet commanders make perfect decisions. Admiral, Jake Morrison reported as his ship. The Resilience tore through a formation of sectar vessels. The enemy is fighting like they're still hunting civilians. They don't know how to handle organized resistance. Kate watched the tactical display as Predator ships that had terrorized the galaxy for decades struggled against an enemy that refused to be terrorized. They've been bullies for so long they forgot how to fight a real war. But the Predators had numbers on their side and some of their species were genuinely dangerous. The Black Tide Syndicate ships were fast and deadly, designed for piracy and quick strikes. The Harvest clans brought massive vessels that could take enormous damage while dealing it back. Admiral, her tactical officer reported, we're taking heavy casualties. The Corvan ship Valor has been destroyed. 3 human vessels are badly damaged. Kate felt each loss like a physical blow. These were not just statistics. They were people who had volunteered to protect innocent species from predators. All ships maintain formation, Kate ordered. Hold the line. But even as her fleet fought desperately, Kate knew that the real battle was being fought somewhere else entirely. On the Galactic Protection Station, Elder Thane and his team were broadcasting the battle to every corner of the galaxy. For the first time in galactic history, peaceful species could watch as someone stood up to the predators. People of the galaxy, Elder Thane announced as he narrated the battle. For 50 years we have lived in fear of species like the Vorthak. We have hidden in the dark corners of space, hoping they would not find us. The broadcast showed human ships charging directly at enemy vessels that were 3 times their size. It showed Corvan captains risking their ships to protect damaged human vessels. It showed species that had never worked together before fighting side by side. But today, Elder Thane continued, we see that there is another choice. Today we see what happens when peaceful species stand together with those brave enough to protect them. Across the galaxy, species that had been hiding in fear for generations watched the battle with growing amazement. The predators were not invincible. They could be fought. They could be beaten. And then something incredible happened. Admiral, Grace Turner called from the station. I'm reading new ships arriving at the edge of the system. Kate looked at her long-range sensors with alarm. More predator reinforcements? No, ma'am, Grace replied with excitement. It's the Nexari fleet. All 37 of their research vessels converted for combat. They're joining the battle. Kate stared in amazement as the peaceful Nexari, who had never fought anyone in their entire history, arrived to help defend the Alliance, but that was just the beginning. Admiral, the communication officer reported, I'm getting signals from across the galaxy. The Telmari Republic is sending their fleet. The gentlefolk are mobilizing their civilian ships. Even the quiet ones are leaving their hiding places to join us. Kate realized what was happening. Elder Thane's broadcast was not just showing the battle to peaceful species. It was inspiring them to act. As more and more allied ships arrived, the tactical balance began to shift. The Predator fleet, which had been confident in their numerical superiority, suddenly found themselves outnumbered by an alliance that grew larger by the hour. Admiral, Tony Rodriguez reported from his assault ship, Predator morale is collapsing. Some of their ships are trying to retreat. Kate watched as the combined Predator fleet, which had seemed so threatening just hours before, began to fall apart. The Vorthak, Sectar, Harvest clans, and Black Tide had been united only by their shared desire to prey on the weak. When faced with real resistance, their alliance crumbled. All ships pursue retreating enemies, Kate ordered. We're not just winning this battle. We're ending this threat permanently. The final phase of the battle was more like a cleanup operation than a fight. Predator ships that had terrorized the galaxy for decades were destroyed or captured by species they had once considered helpless prey. When Warlord Vectar's flagship finally surrendered, Kate felt a weight lift from her shoulders that she had not even realized she was carrying. Admiral, her communication officer reported, Warlord Vectar is requesting to speak with you. Kate nodded. Put him through. The Predator leader's voice came through the speakers, no longer filled with arrogance but with confusion and defeat. Human Admiral, how did you turn the entire galaxy against us? Kate looked at the tactical display, where allied ships from dozens of species were helping with rescue operations and securing prisoners. We didn't turn the galaxy against you, Warlord. You did that yourself by hunting innocent people for 50 years. But we are the strong, Vectar protested. It is the right of the strong to prey upon the weak. No, Kate said firmly. It is the responsibility of the strong to protect the weak. That's the difference between predators and guardians. There was a long pause. What happens to us now? Kate thought about all the species the predators had destroyed, all the families that had been hunted for sport, all the civilizations that had been wiped out for entertainment. She felt anger, but also something else. She felt hope. That depends on you, Kate said. The galaxy is changing. You can change with it, or you can be left behind. After the communication ended, Kate opened a channel to all ships in the system. All vessels, this is Admiral Williams. The Predator threat has been neutralized. The galaxy is safe. The response was immediate. Cheers came through the communication system from dozens of different species in dozens of different languages. But they all meant the same thing. Freedom, hope, victory. Captain Grace Turner contacted Kate from the station. Admiral, Elder Thane wants to make another broadcast to the galaxy. Of course, Kate replied. Elder Thane's voice soon filled the communication channels. People of the galaxy, today we have seen something that many thought impossible. We have seen the strong choose to protect the weak instead of preying upon them. The elderly Ketharan paused, and Kate could hear the emotion in his voice. 6 months ago, my people sent a desperate message into space hoping that someone somewhere might help us. We had heard rumors of whom a